The story opened with Will, who was fighting against the most dangerous monsters that wanted to destroy the magical world. It was a world of magic, where everyone possessed some special magical powers. But out of all of them, Will was the only boy who had no magical powers. However, Will knew about swords and their fighting skills, and because of this, he gained admission into the magical academy to obtain powers. Will had only one wish: to enter the tower where his childhood friend lived. After becoming powerful, the tower was a place where only those people lived who had reached the top levels of magic. And from there they protected the shield that existed between the sky and the earth. That shield stopped the sky monsters and prevented them from entering the earth. After the fight, the scene shifted to Will at his academy, where all his teachers were shocked to see his test results, in which he had received full marks. No student had ever received full marks on their tests before. However, Professor Edward was very angry because he did not want Will to go to the tower. Because of this, he told Will that one last test still remained. Will was very depressed because he needed only one more point to qualify for the tower. He had already earned 5 points from his previous tests and from assassinating monsters in the dungeon. Because of this, he worked hard and began preparing for his next exam, until his friends Colette and Rosti told him that if he worked day and night, his health would suffer. But Will did not stop and told them that he only wanted to pass the last exam, because, no matter what, he wanted to go to the tower. Then Rosti told him that if he kept working day and night like that, his hair would turn white. To prove his point, he cut one white hair from Will's head. Colette became angry at this because she did not like it. She did not want anyone to cut Will's hair. This showed that Colette loved Will very much, but she could not show it in front of him. On the other side, the school principal gave a reward to Sion and Julius for helping in the dungeon and assassinating the monsters alongside Will. But Sion was very arrogant and always thought of himself as the most talented student in the entire academy, so he believed he would enter the tower first after passing the exam. Because of this, Sion and Julius began fighting over who would go to the tower. However, they did not know that working in the tower was not easy. Meanwhile, inside the tower, Alfrea, Will's childhood friend, was shown walking through its halls. Some girls did not like her and told her that she was not eligible for that position because she was weaker than the others. But Alfrea had passed all her exams well and had reached that post on her own merit. She told them that if they did not believe in her, they should fight her and prove their strength by defeating her. The scene then shifted back to Will, who had fallen asleep at his study table. Colette came near him to bring him food. When she saw Will alone, she tried to kiss him, but Rosti suddenly appeared and startled her. She quickly told him that she was only checking on Will's condition, which had not been good for the past few days. At last, the day of the exam arrived, the exam that would decide who would go to the tower and who would remain behind to protect humans from the dangerous monsters. When all the students sat in their class, Professor Edward entered and distributed the exam papers to everyone. The paper shocked all the students because it was entirely based on magic and the feelings that a magician experienced. This shocked all the students, and among them, Will was the most shocked of all, because he had no magical powers and had only used his sword during fights. He knew nothing about magic, but he did not give up and wrote everything he could feel and sense in his mind. One of the teachers, named Werkner, who was in favor of Will, became angry at Professor Edward when he saw the exam. He knew that the professor had designed that type of test specifically for Will to make him fail, since Will had no knowledge of magic, and that was the truth. Edward admitted to Werkner that he did not want anyone without special magical powers to go to the tower. He failed. Will, after checking his paper, Will was very sad when he saw his result and began crying alone, because he had wanted to go to the tower to meet his childhood friend, who was also waiting for him. But now he had failed and could not enter the tower. When Rosti saw Will's condition, he came to him and encouraged him, saying that Will could try again after improving his swordsmanship skills, because Will was very talented with the sword, and no one else in the academy possessed that knowledge. On the other side, Sion and Julius also began tormenting Will's friends and told them that Will was not able to go to the tower because he had no magical skills, and that a person without magic had no place there. Colette became very sad because all of this had been caused by Professor Edward. Then Werkner arrived and stopped the students. He told everyone to go to the New Year festival, where all the people and academy students gathered to witness the mage-killers, the ones who had created a special seal between the sky and the earth and had protected the world throughout the year from the heavenly monsters that tried to enter the earth. After some time, all the mage-killers arrived and used their magical powers to once again create a strong and protective shield against the monsters. But they did not know about the great danger that was approaching. Suddenly, enormous monsters broke through and entered the city and began to overpower them. After that, all the monsters attacked the entire city and began killing many people. Because of this, all the academy students started fighting against them and tried to save the people. But this time the monsters were not like before. When Cyan attacked them with his fire magic, he thought the monster had died, but suddenly the monster stood up again and shocked everyone, because this time magical powers had no effect on the monsters. The monsters had grown more powerful. Cyan attacked many times, but failed, so the students shifted their focus to saving the people and bringing them to safety. But during this chaos, many people were killed by the monsters and much of the city was destroyed. The school headmistress was unable to help at that moment, because all the mage-killers had used their powers in creating the shield and were now weakened. This time, they could not aid the magical academy, so the only ones left fighting against these powerful monsters were the students and their teachers, and it was not an easy task. On the other side, two figures appeared, Headless and Mars, who wanted to destroy the entire academy. They were the most powerful of all, and it was they who had sent the monsters into the city. Now, they stood watching and took pleasure in the suffering of the people who had fallen at the monsters' hands. But then, Will appeared, the only boy who quickly stepped in front of a monster and killed it in a single attack. Because the monsters could not stop his sword, Will then began assassinating the monsters one by one and shocked everyone around him, as he was the only student who was able to fight and kill the monsters effectively. After witnessing this, Headless became angry and ordered Marze to send something after Will, since Will was eliminating the monsters one by one. Suddenly, a portal opened in front of Will, and from inside it, an extremely strong and powerful monster emerged and quickly attacked him. The monster was far too powerful for Will to stop alone, as its strength was far greater than his. During this fight, Rosti came to help Will, and together they began assassinating the monsters one by one. Seeing this, Professor Edward was shocked at what Will was doing, and how hard he was working to save the academy. Edward then called out to all the students to help Will, and they all joined in to fight the monsters alongside him. Together, they defeated the monsters with greater ease. But then, the most powerful and dangerous monster quickly attacked Will and injured him very badly, because Headless had ordered it to kill Will specifically. The monster stepped towards Will to finish him off, but Rosti suddenly appeared in the middle and was struck by the monster instead of Will. Before falling, Rosti told Will that he had always been by his side, so Will should work hard and reach his dreams. Will became furious after witnessing what had happened, as he was deeply, emotionally attached to Rosti. He attacked the monster again with his full strength, but it was extremely difficult, and Will was unable to defeat it, as it was far too powerful. Then the monster looked at its fallen teammates who had been killed by the academy students and began absorbing all of their powers into itself, making itself even stronger. It now wanted to destroy the entire academy. Because of this, all the remaining guardians tried to attack it, but the monster had improved its power and destroyed all of them in a single attack. Marze watched with great satisfaction. Will, on the other hand, was deeply distressed. He felt helpless and could not think of anything he could do, because he had no magical powers, and the monster was killing all the guards one by one with its immense power. His sword had proven useless against that monster. In the end, Will made one last attempt and attacked the monster with everything he had, but nothing happened. The monster struck him hard again and threw him off the building. But before he hit the ground, Professor Werkner arrived on his dragon and quickly swooped in, catching Will and saving his life. Will was very sad about Rosti, who had died right in front of his eyes. But Werkner did not stop, and flew away from that place on his dragon to save Will's life. Meanwhile, in the tower, Vander Zio was very angry to see that all the people had been dying alone at the monster's hands. He wanted to go and help them, but the others stopped him, explaining that they had already used all their power in making the shield and were now too weak. They argued that if they went to the academy, and even one of them was killed in the monster attack, the heavenly monsters would break the shields present in the sky, and the entire world would be destroyed. Because of this, they could not go, and the people of the academy had to survive on their own. But Alfaria did not stop. She could not bear the thought of watching Will be killed at the monster's hands. She quickly stood up from her place and asked her seniors to go and help the magical academy. When they refused, Alfaria used her powers to show them that if they did not go with her, she would go alone and help them herself. Back at the academy, the situation had become very critical. Werkner knew that they could not defeat the monster. Will told Werkner everything about Rosti, and Werkner was already heartbroken upon hearing the news, because Rosti had been the most cheerful and friendly student in the entire academy. But before they could leave the area, Mars appeared in front of them and used his high S-rank power to launch a devastating attack. The attack badly injured Werkner and also destroyed his dragon. Then Colette, Julius, and Wignall came together and made a plan to fight the monster, because none of them could defeat it alone. The monster was slowly killing all the ordinary people, one by one. Edward was very distressed to see the people so helpless, unable to do anything as the monster killed them. He tried his best to save as many people as he could, but the situation was dire. Werkner felt deep sorrow as he watched all his students and guards fall one by one. Then, Colette and Cyan attempted to defeat all the monsters together in one powerful attack, but they failed. The monsters were too strong and struck back, injuring all of them in a single blow. They were left completely hopeless. Then, suddenly, Professor Eliza arrived and eliminated all the monsters with her special power. She told all of them to leave that place immediately, because their student Emma had already been killed in the monster attack, and Lehana was sobbing uncontrollably beside her body. After some time, Iris spotted a boy named Finn, who approached her and asked about Will, specifically about the sword boy. Finn told her that Will was in a very bad condition, because when Mars had attacked them, Werkner had been badly injured and a sword had been driven into his body. But before he died, Werkner told Will that he was not powerless, that inside his body, a magic was hidden that no one had ever known about. He told Will to find it. Before he could say anything more, Werkner pulled Will into a tight embrace, because he knew that his end had come. Then Werkner went silent and fainted on Will's shoulder. Then Finn appeared in front of Will and told him about the magic that Werkner had spoken of. Finn explained that the magic was inside Will's body, but not in the same way that other magicians and students possessed it. Inside Will, a great amount of courage and bravery had been filled, and he had never stopped until he fulfilled his wishes. Because of this, Will was hardworking beyond measure, and the power inside his body was a sword power, something that no one else possessed. Finn then told Will to stand up, take his sword, and change the world with his new power. Finn added some power into Will's sword and told him that the answer he had been searching for was the magical power that had always lived inside his heart. When Will picked up the sword, his entire body transformed into a powerful new form and his hair changed to silver, a sight that shocked everyone around him. His speed became extraordinary. Will then began assassinating all the monsters in the city one by one, moving faster than anyone could follow. It impressed everyone present, and the Magiavander were especially thrilled to witness that kind of power. Alfaria felt great happiness in her heart. Then Will reached the spot where Cyan was fighting a monster. Just as the monster moved to attack Cyan, Will arrived in an instant and saved Cyan's life, then assassinated the monster in a single strike. But this was not the end. When Will went near the monster, he felt that it was still alive. The monster stood up again from its place and attacked Will with its full strength. But this time, Will was not weak. All his friends were very shocked to see Will in that form, because his silver hair stunned everyone present. Many of them thought at first that the light they saw was a magical power that had been eliminating all the monsters in seconds. But then they all realized that it was Will, who had improved his power with Finn's help. Finn was very happy to see Will's speed and his fighting style. Finn also noted that Will had improved his power far beyond even his own imagination. Now Will fought against the monster alone, as no academy member stepped in to help him. He fought by himself and tried to eliminate the monster completely. The headmistress of the academy knew that their magic was useless against that monster, so Will was the only one who could defeat it. After hearing this, all the academy members gathered in front of the main gate of the academy and began supporting Will, chanting that he could do it. Among them, Cyan, Julius, and many other students also cheered for Will, urging him to assassinate the monster. But the monster was not easy to defeat, because Headless was a very powerful magician who controlled it. Sarah was shocked to see Will fighting against the monster, because she knew that Will had no magical power. Professor Edward also wanted to see Will fight face to face. Because of this, he asked Sarah to take him to the place where Will was fighting. Although Edward's health was not good, he could not stop himself and reached the place where Will was fighting and was showing his strength to everyone. Edward had been the only teacher who had never believed that Will could do something like this, but now he was completely stunned by what he witnessed. After attacking the monster many times, Will realized that he could not defeat it easily with his current approach, so he tried to create a new spell to defeat it. He did this with the help of Alfaria, who was watching Will from the top of the tower alongside many of the Magiavander. They were all very happy to see Will fight. Their senior, Aaron, was angry at the headmistress because she had not told him about Will and had kept this a secret. Will had impressed all of them greatly, and Alfaria especially was moved. But then she became distressed when she saw that during the fight, Will's sword had broken and he had no replacement. So Alfaria stepped out of the room, went to the window, and used her power to forge a special and powerful sword. She then threw it down to Will. At that moment, Will took the sword, channeled Alfaria's magical power through it, and began creating a new, incredibly strong spell to defeat the monster, and it was no easy task. Everyone watched, wondering how Will would manage to defeat it. They were all shocked to see Will using Alfaria's power through his sword, and at times it even seemed as though Alfaria herself was fighting alongside Will against the monster. Will used all his strength and attacked the monster with Alfaria's power, cutting off its arm in a single strike. Seeing this, Mars became furious and told Headless to do something before Will defeated them. But there was nothing they could do, because this was Will's moment. He fought on against the monster with Alfaria's help, and eliminated many other monsters that Mars had sent to attack him. Then Will declared that this was his final attack and that he would eliminate the monster completely. He used the spell he had created himself, attacked the monster with his full strength, and destroyed it entirely. After this, all the students became very happy, and some of them began to cry, overwhelmed that Will had done it. Professor Werkner was also very happy, but his condition was still critical. The academy members carried him into a room to treat him. The scene then shifted to Will, who was sleeping under the headmistress's spell. She was working to restore Will back to his normal form, because during the fight, his hair color had changed and his strength had improved very rapidly. While the headmistress worked, Will lay in a dream where he thought only of Rosti, the first boy who had ever befriended him when he was new to the academy. But now Rosti was gone, and Will had not been able to save his life. Finn told the headmistress that Will had shocked all of them beyond imagination, because no one had expected Will to possess that kind of power. He also assured her that Will would return to his normal form in time. On the other side, Professor Edward went to Werkner's room to check on his condition. When Werkner woke up, the first thing he asked about was Will, which annoyed Edward greatly, as everyone knew Edward did not like Will. Edward quickly pulled a blanket over Werkner and told him that Will was safe and under the headmistress's care, and that Werkner should sleep and take some rest. Then the scene moved to Vander Aaron, who was deep in thought about Headless and Mars. He could not understand how they had managed to enter the city despite all the security that had been in place. This troubled him greatly. He called all the Magi of Vander together and told them to find Mars and Headless, because they were now a great danger. If they were left alone, they would attack again and cause even greater destruction. Aaron urged them to capture the two as quickly as possible, for the safety of the Magical Academy. After this, the scene shifted to Alfaria, who sat alone and thought only of Will, because she loved him very much. She had written a letter to Will asking him to come to the top of the tower, as she believed the Magical Academy would send Will there as a reward for his hard work and for saving so many lives. However, she was angry at her assistant for not delivering the letter to Will. The assistant explained to Alfaria that it was against the rules of the tower to send anything to Academy members, and because of this, the letter could not be sent. But Alfaria's long wait was nearly over, because all the Academy members believed that Will deserved to be sent to the tower. If Will came, the two of them would finally be together, and there would be no need for any more letters. On the other side, the condition of the city was shown it had been completely damaged by the monster attack. But the Magical Academy members tried their best to restore the city using their magical powers, and they worked very quickly. Seeing them, Finn told Iris that they would be able to return the city to its normal shape in no time. But Iris, who clearly did not like Finn, told him to leave that place immediately, saying that he always brought danger wherever he went. Meanwhile, Will's condition was not good. He could only think about Rosti, and when he went to Rosti's room and saw his cat, he became deeply sad. There was nothing he could do anymore. He took Rosti's cat with him and locked the room forever. The time had come to go to the Academy Hall, where all the members had gathered to pray for those who had died in the attack. Many of their teachers and many ordinary people had lost their lives. The members said a few words in their honor and then announced that they would now reveal the names of the top 50 students who would be sent to the tower. Upon hearing this, everyone became excited and began to wonder what would happen if their name was called, because going to the tower was the dream of every Academy member. After this, Edward first handed out certificates to the top students who had performed the best during the fighting. Then the headmistress began announcing the names of the students one by one, giving each of them a witch's hat. Will listened to every name with great excitement, believing that his name would be next. But as the announcements went on, his name was never called. Colette, his best friend, became very sad for him, as all of his friends' names had been announced and only Will had been left out. In the end, Will gave up hope and quietly apologized to Alfaria in his heart, promising to try harder next time. But at that very moment, the headmistress told everyone that one student still remained a student who had not received full marks on his test, but who had created his own spell, which proved beyond any doubt that this could only be Will. The headmistress then announced Will's name. Edward became furious, as he had never wanted Will to go to the tower. But the headmistress silenced him and placed the hat on Will's head. Cyan began to clap, Will had finally fulfilled his wish, and he was overjoyed knowing that he would soon be reunited with Alfaria. Will was now very happy and thought only of Alfaria, that he would finally get to go to her. He also thought of their childhood memories. Back when they were kids, Alfaria had always been far more powerful than Will, and she had once told him that one day they would go to the tower together, but that she would go first and wait for him. Now, after 5 long years, Will thought about finally meeting her again, and his heart was filled with excitement. Because of this, he quickly went to the swordmaker's shop, where he ordered the strongest and most powerful sword that could be made, one even stronger than his previous one. The man told Will that this was the most powerful sword he had ever crafted in his entire life, and handed it over to him. Before leaving, Will asked about the price, but the man refused to accept any payment. He told Will that he knew Will was the boy who had saved their lives from the monsters when all the magical people and the mage-killers had been helpless, and because of that, he could not take money from Will. The sword was his gift. Will then went to meet his fellow students, where they all changed into new clothes. It was a tradition that anyone going to the tower for the first time changed their appearance to look like a powerful magician before entering. However, Julius was in a very bad mood at that time. Lihana explained to Colette that every student had received a letter from the mage-killers except Julius, and that was why he was so angry. Then the time came, and they all gathered at the front entrance gate alongside Sierra, from where the selected students would enter the tower. They all looked very happy and stunning in their new suits. At last, they entered the tower. At first, they all felt something strange and dangerous, but suddenly they were all lifted into the air on floating stones and carried up to the first floor of the tower, which was breathtakingly beautiful and gleamed entirely in white. All the students were very happy and took in the magnificent sight with great joy. In that place, every student wore a special suit that represented their faction: fire faction, water faction, ice faction, dark faction, and many others. Sarah told them all that after some time, they would be taken to the hall of the tower, where all the vendors would choose certain students and begin training them. While they waited, Lihana spotted some sweets and became very excited, and immediately started eating them. Colette stopped her, and eventually they all made their way to the hall, where several mage-killers were already present. After some time, the most powerful vendors arrived. All the students stood before them as the mage-killers began choosing students according to their abilities. When a student was chosen, their suit changed color to match their faction. Sion was chosen by the fire faction master and his suit changed to red. Colette was chosen by the Earth faction. One by one, almost all the students were selected by various vendors except for 4, among whom were Will and Julius. No one had chosen them. Alfaria had not chosen Will either, because she had already helped him during the fight against the monster, and because of that, she felt she could not make that choice now. Then, according to the rules of the vendors, those 4 remaining students were given one chance to prove their strength by eliminating monsters in front of everyone. If they passed, they would be selected. If not, they would be turned away. The test began. The mage-killers released the monsters, and they attacked the 4 students. Julius quickly used his copy power and defeated 2 monsters using ice magic similar to Alfaria's, which shocked everyone. Julius thought that Alfaria would choose him because of this, but she simply turned her head away and did not pick him. Then it was Will's turn. He first studied and analyzed the monster's attacking ability, then eliminated many monsters in a single attack and stunned all the mage-killers with his extraordinary speed. What impressed them even more was that Will had analyzed and adapted to anyone's attacking style almost instantly, something that even many senior vendors had never been able to do easily. Seeing this, Alfaria was very happy and deeply impressed by Will. She thought to herself that she had truly chosen the best life partner. If you enjoyed this story, share the video and subscribe to the channel.